Hello hockey fans, Oddman Rush here and welcome back to another video. The 23-24 NHL season is now well underway. We're about a week into the schedule at the time of this recording, and given that there's been so much excitement around the hockey world with all these new rookies coming up into the league, with existing players lighting the league early on this year, I wanted to reboot a previous series on this channel I like to call This Week in Hockey. The series where we take a look at some of the most exciting news and events from the last week of the hockey world and sit down and have a bit more of a chat about them and analyse them in a little more detail. Now, I asked you guys on both Twitter and on my YouTube community tab to give me your thoughts and give me some topics that you wanted me to discuss for this opening episode of the 23-24 season, and you guys gave me some pretty interesting things to discuss, so let's see what you guys had to say, shall we? First up, we have the Leafs fan who asks, thoughts on Auston Matthews' crazy start to the season? Do you think he has a chance to score 65 plus goals this year? Now, obviously, Matthews has had an insane start to the regular season so far, a hat-trick in his first 2 consecutive games of the year, 6 goals on the season in 2 games, which is amazing for any player, let alone one of the best goal scorers in the league at the moment. I think Matthews, if anybody claims that Auston Matthews is not one of the best goal scorers in the NHL right now, they're being ridiculous, you know? Like, Matthews is a pure goal scorer through and through. Now, whether I think he's able to hit 65 by the end of the year, that's a really interesting question, actually. I think it's possible with Matthews. I think that he's a good enough goal scorer and he's consistent enough to be able to score 65 in the year, barring any injuries, of course. We're talking hypothetical here, so injuries aren't part of the conversation, right? If Matthews stays healthy for the entire regular season, if he keeps up his current pace, he's going to eclipse 65 no problem. But obviously, with the ebbs and flows of an 82-game season, there's going to be times where Matthews doesn't play like this. There's going to be times where he plays just as good as this. There's also going to be times where he might struggle a little bit, or he is suffering from kind of lingering injuries but aren't enough to take him out of the lineup, or he's, you know, he just goes a bit cold. He has a bit of a cold streak, which every player does at some point, right? I definitely think Matthews is going to hit 50 this year. He's done it before. He's won a Rocket Richard before. The guy can score goals. That's not the problem. It's just whether he's going to hit 65, because let's be honest, 65 goals in a season, you have to pretty much score a goal every single game for like 3/4, 4/5 of the season. So is he able to do that? I think he's capable of being able to do so. But obviously, life and the regular season struggles get in the way. I don't know. I want to say that it's possible because Matthews is the type of player that if he finished the year with 65 goals, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's just Auston Matthews. You know, that's just typical Auston Matthews, and he's got the job done again. I think obviously we need to slow down a little bit with, he scored 6 goals in 2 games. He's going to keep like that for the rest of the year. Let's pump the brakes on that, Leafs fans, a little bit, okay? It's early in the season. I'm sure he's going to play well for the rest of the year, but expecting a hat-trick out of him every single game for the next 80 games of the year is obviously unfeasible too. So, I don't know. 65, I kind of want to err on the side of, yeah, I think he can hit 65 just because I'd love to see him do it. But whether he's actually going to do it, I'm not sure whether it's my, I'd love to see this awesome milestone be hit within the league is overtaking my, okay, Oddman Rush, let's be a little bit more logical about this and sit down and think about it. When's the last time a player hit 65 goals? So I think it's possible. Whether he actually does it or not, I think obviously remains to be seen. It's a bit of a cop-out answer, isn't it? But yeah, Auston Matthews, insane goal scorer. If he keeps up even a slither of this pace for the rest of the year, 65 goals shouldn't be a problem. But hopefully, barring any injuries, barring any difficulties for him, I think 50 or 60 is definitely within the realm of possibility. And to be honest, to the point where if he didn't hit one of those milestones, I think people would be shocked and somewhat disappointed as well. So Auston Matthews can really score goals, huh? Next up, we have John Francis on Twitter who asks, after 2 wins against a cup favourite, can Vancouver make the playoffs? The Canucks played the Edmonton Oilers, I believe, the first 2 games of the season and played pretty well against the Oilers, I might add. And yes, the Oilers being a cup contender, a cup favourite, I mean, they've been a cup favourite for the last couple of years now and they've never quite got the job done. And in terms of their roster compared to years prior, I don't necessarily see a huge jump in the terms of they're more impressive than years before. So whether I'd consider them a cup favourite, I'm not sure. A legitimate cup contender, yes. But a favourite to win the Stanley Cup, I'm not sure about that. But I digress, that's a different point for another day. In terms of the Vancouver Canucks, though, they're a team that you just never quite know what you're going to get with the Vancouver Canucks, do you? They're kind of a box of chocolates from Forrest Gump, you know? Several years ago, they were struggling. They made signings that they probably shouldn't have done, signed them to long-term deals they probably shouldn't have done. They were a team, they're kind of a tweener team, aren't they? They're not quite good enough to make it deep into the playoffs. Like, if they make it to the postseason, they get eliminated in the first round typically, but they're also typically good enough to make it to the playoffs but you're also not surprised if they don't make it either. And also with their kind of off-season that they've had this year, I don't really see any kind of significant moves that make me go, oh, yeah, they're definitely a playoff contender now, or they're definitely a cup contender. A playoff contender, yes, they are. They're always in contention for the playoffs. I'll give the Vancouver Canucks credit there. They're always a team that they're in the hunt for the playoffs deep into the regular season. But unfortunately, as I can imagine most Canucks fans who are watching this feel like, that's not good enough at this point. For the team that they've had, obviously the run they had back in 2011, since then, they've had nothing to show for it. They've had a couple of relatively deep playoff runs. They had the run in the bubble where they made it through to the conference finals, I want to say, or the second round or something like that. And obviously, other than that, it's either been first round exit, playoff miss, first round exit, playoff miss. And I can understand why Canucks fans would be visibly upset by the fact that the team just hasn't found its rhythm, but also look at the roster that they've built. Obviously, you've got guys like, Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, you've got Brock Besser, who had a really strong start to the year with 4 goals in a game. Does that team scream superstar playoff championship contender to you? I don't think so. I think it's just going to be another year of the same for them, which obviously I can imagine Canucks fans listening to this are going to be really disappointed to hear me say that, but I think we've got to be logical here, guys, right? They're a team that they're in no man's land. If you look at that roster realistically and logically and you look at it and go, okay, let's compare it to other rosters around the league, they don't stack up. They don't stack up to the Colorados, the Tampas, the Vegases of the league, So to claim that they're a cup favourite, I don't think is fair for Canucks fans. Like, let's not be delusional here. I don't want to give you the impression that they're a cup favourite so you get all excited and think, oh, we're going to the finals this year. I just don't see it. Then again, I'm wrong about most of my predictions anyway, as most sports people are. So if they did make it to the playoffs and went on a deep run, I'd be happy to see it. Like, having a successful Vancouver team in the NHL is a great thing, and it's something that the league needs because that fan base is dedicated. For all of my criticisms of the Canucks fan base, they are a dedicated fan base that just want to see a successful team on the ice. And I can completely understand that as a fan of a team who went through a rebuild recently and you have to suffer through those struggles, and now they're starting to get good again, and you go, okay, we're starting to reap the rewards of that. If you have a team that's kind of stuck in that limbo in no man's land for half a decade now, that's frustrating. I can't imagine how frustrating that is. But yeah, Vancouver, I don't think they're a cup contender now. I don't think they're a championship team. I think they're a playoff contender for sure. I would be quite surprised if they didn't make the playoffs. But then again, the division that they're in, some of the teams they're going up against, it's not going to be easy. That's the thing about the regular season, right? Everyone talks about, oh, this team should have made the playoffs. Then you actually compare it with the other teams in their division, and it's really difficult to pick another team to come out in order to put that team in. So Vancouver fans, good luck. I think your season could go well, but let's just take it game by game, okay? I don't think a championship is in your future, but I guess we'll have to wait and see, right? And lastly, we have Goza18 who says, how do you rate the Montreal Canadiens' chances this season? Now, living in Montreal at the moment, I know how much Canadiens fans' fever goes when the regular season starts. I can see everybody getting absolutely pumped for the season. I think Habs fans need to pump the brakes here. You're going through a rebuild. It's okay to be a team that doesn't necessarily make the playoffs, or there's a few more steps, a few more building blocks before the team becomes a legitimate playoff contender once again. There's a lot of young players on the Habs roster this year. Yes, you've got the guys that have clearly stepped up in, like I said, Caulfield, Suzuki, but you've got guys like Slavkovsky who, had his rookie year. Fans have been really hard on him for his rookie year, but I think he's going to take a step this year. Kirby Duck, who obviously had a pretty strong year with the Habs last year. I think he's down with a knee injury at the moment, but I think he's going to take the next step provided he stays healthy for the rest of the year. I think you've got a lot of players on the Habs roster who are going to take steps this season, who, they're all in their late teens, early 20s. It's okay to have a roster filled with young up-and-coming guys who aren't quite ready to make that step yet. Obviously, the run to the finals made a lot of Habs fans happy, excited. Maybe we win another cup. Obviously wasn't meant to be, but since then it's kind of been, rebuild mode with Price going out and Weber retiring and all of that stuff. Like I said earlier, being a fan of a team that I saw go through a rebuild within the last half a decade, there is something quite exciting and quite fun about watching a team that quite literally has zero expectations from the wider hockey world. Like, if you ask most hockey fans about the Montreal Canadiens this season, they're going to tell you that, yeah, they're a team that's rebuilding. They're probably not going to make the playoffs, but they're going to be a fun team to watch, right? And I think that's the thing that most Habs fans should kind of grab onto. they're going to be fun. I'd rather pay good money to go and watch a fun team play than a team that, you know, like the Islanders from a couple of years ago where they play like really choking defense and win a game 1-0, you know? There's going to be games where, you know, even the season opener with the Habs where they went 3-0 up and then obviously Toronto came back. It sucks that the Habs lost that game. That was a fun game, right? So yeah, it's not going to be the best season in Habs history, especially given their long and decorated history in the league. But I think provided the right players take the next step, I do have all the faith in Martin St. Louis. I think he's a great coach for the Habs. I think he's doing a tremendous job for them. I think the players are really buying into his philosophy as well. I am also a huge fan of Arber Xhekaj. I love his story. I love his style of play. He's very much a dying breed kind of player. So I'm really excited to see how he does this season as well. Yeah, I think the Habs, it's okay to be a bottom feeder team this year. I think next season and the season beyond, that's when you've got to be like, okay, we've had a first overall draft pick. We've got a lot of young up-and-coming prospects who they're spending the year down in the minors or back in college or in major juniors. They're ready to take the next step now. Let's see how this goes, and let's see if we can now reach the playoffs. But in terms of this year, I would say to Habs fans, as a Rangers fan first who went through that rebuild, just enjoy the ride for another year. It's not going to be pretty at points. There's going to be moments where, you know, it's really exciting. There might be points where you're in the playoff race, but I think the playoffs is a bit too far away for you guys. But regardless, enjoy the ride. Enjoy seeing these young up-and-coming players finding their way in the NHL. I promise you, it will be a lot of fun. The end result might not be what you want, but you're going to have a great time getting there. You know, it's about the journey, not the destination this year, right? And on that note, I'm going to end today's video. Thank you for watching This Week in Hockey. What do you guys think about the topics that we discussed in this video, and also this style and this kind of format? Do you like the idea of me covering some of the bigger topics within the NHL and the hockey world every week? Do you like the idea of me taking the questions from you guys as the topics to discuss? Or should I just kind of find the most important topics throughout the week and discuss them? Or should I do a completely different style of video instead? Do let me know in the comments below. Like I've said in previous videos, there's a lot of changeover and a lot of upheaval within the channel at the moment, so I'm really kind of trying to look for that next direction for us. But do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear anything and everything that you guys have to say. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. A big thank you to Bexy93, Burned Retinas, Drew Fawcett, Houston NG, Raquel, and Worthless Pieces for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.